here, there were two Turkish baths that opened the hotel in 1912. I believe they only lasted about 10 years or so. Well, they had tunnels that went down Broadway and piped fresh salt water twice a day into the Turkish baths. Once the Turkish baths were closed down, the tunnels remained. They took the pipes out, and being that it was at the bay, they would park ships during Prohibition by the tunnels. They would take the cases of liquor and crawl space them down Broadway and into the hotel, which everyone, even the police, had forgotten about the tunnels because it had been so many years. And so this room here, which is now called the Celestial Ballroom, was the original speakeasy of San Diego. And that lasted through Prohibition. Then after that, this room, when liquor became legalized, became the Little Club in the 40s. And Benny Goodman and other big band leaders played here.
So do you know anything about like the red light district? They call San Diego the red light district.
Now pretty much as far as I know, it's the Gaslamp Quarter that was called the Red Light District. Mm-hmm. Now there's a club down there that's a modern club called the Stingery. They originally called the Gaslamp Quarter the Stingery. Originally the Gaslamp Quarter was all warehouses, and it was all sailors, and it was a port. So with the sailors, the reason they called it the Stingery was the sailors would get off the ships. At that time, the bay wasn't so deep, and they would jump out of the boat, and they would swim and walk ashore, and they would say that there were stingrays in the bay, and they called it the Stingery because if you didn't get stung by the stingrays, you got stung by the brothels. So it was the red light district, and from what I understand, it was Market and south of Market. And it was notorious. Right there at Jimmy Love's was the not only courthouse, but was also the jail. And they had brothels. There's a restaurant called the Marble Room. Mm-hmm. What they would do is there were different types of brothels. There were the kind for the sailors, which were just little shanty shacks, and they were along the bay. Then in downtown, they had like the second story of the businesses. They would have a legitimate business down below and a brothel above. Well, because they had that legitimate business, that would keep the police away. Well, there were a story that I was told that there would be young ladies and they would be dressed in different colors. A lady would be in yellow, a lady would be in red, a lady in blue.
Coordinated with their dorm rooms.
And coordinated with the door. Mm-hmm. Now, what they would do is they would have marbles. There's a restaurant called the Marble Room. Uh-huh. With these marbles, they would go up to sailors or what have you, and they would say, if you're interested, they would give, if she was wearing blue marble, go to this address and go to the blue door. Now, pretty much what I was told is that never was the woman in blue the one that answered the door. They got their finest girls out there and about to solicit. And so that's how they got the marbles. And they would call it the Marble Room. They were also called the Yoo-Hoo Girls. And the Yoo-Hoo Girls, they would stand up from the second floor from their windows and lean out the windows and to the men passing by, Yoo-Hoo, Yoo-Hoo. So they were called the Yoo-Hoo Girls.
Interesting.
One of the biggest brothels, what I was told, was in the Wyatt Earp building on Fifth Avenue. And the reason it was so successful was not only did Wyatt Earp have his saloon there, but he had a bank. So they would, the police and judicial system would leave it alone because of the bank. But they would have the Yoo-Hoo Girls up there, and it was scandalous.
So do you know what like those buildings were used for after?
What they did was they ended up turning them into legitimate businesses. Also that some were apartments, but most of them were like little offices that they would have in downtown, but many people lived here in downtown as well.
So, do you know anything about this door that's supposedly on 6th Avenue between A and B Street?
No.
What was she saying? Yeah, there's like this crest on the ground, and then there's like a crest above the door, and supposedly there's like a tunnel that goes all the way to Harvard to that door, but like no one's near it.
I hadn't heard of that.
No.
You know, I do know that, though, that pretty much the other end was more notorious. They tried to keep everything down past Market Street as much as possible. So with the US grant being here on Broadway, it was far enough away.
So all the tunnels, like, do you think that there's anything still going on with the tunnels?
No, I don't believe so. In fact, from what I understand, they're fairly small. And through the years, I mean, we're talking 1910. So.
We saw them, they're pretty small, but a person could still like.
Oh yes, and crawl
crouch
space
and
through,
walk.
and crouch through. But yet, I don't know if anybody has been all the way down, if they still go because of so much construction that was done with streets and plumbing and such. So I don't really know if they still go all the way down. I know that they had the tunnels and that they pretty much were looking into them when this hotel was being refurbished in 2006.
Oh, cool. Well, that's good.
There we go.
Mhm.
We're good?